Welcome to Uninterrupted, the podcast from Forbes Cybersecurity, where we dive into the world of technology, cybersecurity, and IT solutions. We help your business stay protected and ahead of the curve by providing the information you need to stay safe. Whether you're a business owner, IT professional, or just tech curious, this is your go-to source for staying informed and staying secure. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Uninterrupted, the cybersecurity podcast from Forbes. So you might notice things are a little bit different today, and what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce you here to Dan Glover. And Dan, say hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Dan is our compliance guy, is among a bunch of other things that he does for Forbes. He's got a pretty long CV, and we're going to talk about some of those things and get going here. One of the most interesting things, though, that Dan has is a certified ethical hacker. Can you talk about that a little bit, Dan, and kind of say, hey, what is that?
One of the reasons I started thinking about going into certified ethical hacker line of things is I like to break things. But I've always been a hacker from the very beginning. And the very basic thought of what a hacker is you're trying to piece together things. Hacking a system really is just trying to get a system to do something that it shouldn't do. So constantly looking for these vulnerabilities that you can take advantage of. And that's the type of thing that really appealed to me going into in school for my bachelor's degree. So it was something that was really interesting to me to be able to break things and tell people how to fix it. And, and also from the business aspect of things, I think it's really important for them to know where the vulnerabilities exist and where risk lies. So it was something that was, one, technically cool and also business side of things. So it gave me two different edges for it.
Yeah. No, we see a lot of stuff in the tech world where we go to hire people and we go to these tech conferences and we talk to people. A lot of the times they'll say, who liked taking things apart? And a huge chunk of us will raise our hands and then said, okay, who was great about putting them back together? And there was a lot less hands that were up because the figuring out of how things work was more important to a lot of us than getting them back together. Because then you knew, right? And after you knew, the curiosity was gone a little bit. When I like to think of hacking or vulnerabilities and things like that, and correct me if I'm wrong from your expertise period, but I like to kind of think of it as a vulnerability. A lot of people think is, hey, this system's unpatched, which can be a vulnerability. But when I think of a vulnerability, when I get on a system or I think about it from a hacker mindset is, when does the system tell me no? Just clicking around as if I'm an end user and saying, okay, how far can I get before it tells me no? How does that, what do you think about that?
It's a neat perspective. I mean, from my perspective, it's really anything that can break down and get me to where I shouldn't be.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I've done penetration tests where I walk right into a business and walk straight back to their server room.
Right.
You know, it shouldn't happen. But I mean, we have a certain mindset as human beings, as you know, that it's going to happen. So you have to train your people to recognize those type of things and be able to stop them.
Like the mindset of, hey, we're Midwestern nice, and just because somebody asks or looks like they should be there, we're going to let them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes the nice thing to do is to make sure that somebody's only where they're supposed to go.
Yep.
And that's not only just because you want to keep your data protected or your systems protected, but also you want to make sure that your guests in your building are safe because they're not at a place where they shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Kind of correct?
Yeah. I mean,
right.
It's when people come here, I walk around with them because, I want them to be able to ask questions and me be able to get to you and be able to answer any questions that they have.
Yeah.
But there's also the security aspect of it as well.
Yeah. So you mentioned penetration test. We see that a lot, that people are talking about penetration tests, and we're going to have a big video about penetration testing versus vulnerability scanning versus auditing, all that kind of stuff coming up. But just really quickly, you're certified in doing penetration tests. Kind of what is that? What does that kind of do? What does that mean? And why would a company want to do something like that?
So with a penetration test, a company is going to engage me, for example, to try and go through the same exact scenarios that a hacker would go through. Mm-hmm. So, and there's lots of different scenarios that you can set up. So you can basically say, this is going to be a complete black box. We're not going to tell you anything. And
no passwords, nothing like that.
Exactly.
You're going to come in as if you're a hacker with no knowledge except what you can gather.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the way I always told my students was, a black box, you're in the dark. a white box completely in the light. So they give you everything. They give you network diagrams, and but one of the things that you have to do is be able to prove how you got to a certain point, and then how you were able to exploit it, and then what you would be able to do. Since we are ethical, we have to have permission to get to that certain point, and we also want to make sure that we're not taking down a company, because a lot of times we're doing this during work hours, especially engaging with the employees and trying to do social engineering and things like that. But
unlike a hacker, we actually care if something gets broken during the day, right? We can't only go so far, right?
Yeah, and you're liable for it in a lot of cases.
Yeah,
too.
right.
So.
There's contracts and NDAs and all kinds of stuff that goes in before this, but
So you want to basically go in there and try and replicate as faithfully as you can what a hacker would do, going all the way from the recon all the way to exploitation, and be able to say this is what could have happened.
And in my mind, there's two goals for that. One, when I look to engage somebody in a penetration test or a company that wants to do a penetration test, I think that there's a couple of really big main goals in mind. One is to verify the vulnerabilities that you already know about, right? Just say, hey, are these exploitable? Sometimes I accept the risk is an acceptable answer, right? Whenever you're deciding how much vulnerability you want to carry, because there could be monetary issues that would cause that vulnerability to need to be carried, or use cases that, hey, we need to allow this vulnerability to happen in our system, but you need to know about it and put a safety net around it. So it might be verifying some of those things that we know, but also a big one is, what don't we know?
Right.
Yeah, what can you uncover that we don't know? You mentioned something else, your students. So you did some teaching, you've done some things about that. Why don't you talk about that for a minute and kind of talk about your experience with teaching, where you've kind of done those things at? And,
I actually was fortunate enough to work for the University of Cincinnati. One of my passions was ethical hacking, so I got to teach ethical hacking at the University of Cincinnati for several semesters. Got to teach other classes as well, but I was really fortunate to get to kind of help the minds that are coming out in the workplace now, and it was really fun, but ultimately I wanted to get back out here and actually get my hands dirty and doing things rather than teaching. So
and you came from kind of an academic world, you have a master's degree, all those sorts of things. A master's in cybersecurity, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, master's in cybersecurity. And so what have you kind of learned from coming from the academic world and being in that space for quite a few years and coming back into the practical world of cybersecurity? What's been some stuff that surprised you and you've learned from there?
I mean, it's really interesting, the difference between learning something from a book and actually getting your hands on and doing things. I think that it's really great that the people that you're going to be hiring have some experience with it, but I don't think it comes close to the type of experience of actually doing it. And doing it day in and day out. There are people that I know who don't have a degree,
right?
They are so much better than me in doing all of these tasks. Knowing machines better, hands down, firewalls and things like that. If I had their knowledge of how, it would make me a better penetration tester.
Right. Well, I think there's also a rapid pace of things that happen at a company like ours, where we have thousands of endpoints and hundreds of servers and hundreds of switches and hundreds of firewalls and all those things, thousands of email addresses that we have to protect. You are dealing with things. Yes, it's spread across dozens of companies. But you get to deal with things like enterprises deal with, because just the volume and scope. So there's more attacks against the companies that we manage, just because we see a lot more people and there's more opportunities for that. So there's a lot of practical cybersecurity going on. I know that I've learned a ton from you since you've been here. I have a mind, and James and I here at Forbes, we have a mind that is very practical cybersecurity. Right, and so there's a huge compliance piece of this that our minds don't work that way. And Dan's changed the way that we think about things. He's running our compliance program, working with clients to get them through the things they need to do. We do a lot of the practical cybersecurity, but the compliance piece is something where my mind doesn't work that way, and that's really making sure that everything's done correctly.
It's kind of nice for my OCD mind. I mean, it really does kind of lend myself.
Yeah.
It's tailored specifically for me.
Yeah, right. Another thing I wanna target on, because I know a lot of people have been having this question from talking to a lot of people, is the ethical part of ethical hacking you've touched on, but the certified piece.
Yeah.
Who certifies you? What does that actually kind of mean?
There's several different ones out there. I have 2 certifications. One is through the EC Council, which is the CEH, Certified Ethical Hacker. And the other one is Security Plus, or Penetration Plus. That one is through another, I forget the name of it off the top of my head. But yeah, there's 2 different certifications that are specifically for penetration testing. So
yeah. So basically, you're registered somewhere as you know how to do this, and you've learned the trade craft. We have another certified ethical hacker on staff, and James is in fact a certified ethical hacker, the owner of the company. When we look at these types of items, we want to know the trade craft, and we're constantly boning up on the new procedures that are being done for hacking so that we can defend against it. Yeah. Awesome. Well, guys, if you want to talk to Dan, he's available. We're definitely want to talk to companies and learn how to get them secure. If you're part of our compliance program, you work very highly with Dan. We do compliance as a service here, so it's a symbiotic relationship between our 2 companies. If you're interested in anything like that, please reach out to us. Go to our website, Forbes.com, and fill out a contact us form, or give us a phone call, 513-494-4444. We'd be happy to talk to you and learn how we can help make your company more safe. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thanks, everybody. We'll talk soon. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Uninterrupted, a podcast from Forbes Cybersecurity. We hope you walked away with practical insights to protect your business and stay ahead of the latest cyber threats. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your colleagues. For more tips, resources, and cybersecurity updates, visit Forbes.com, that's 4bis.com, and follow us on LinkedIn and Facebook. We'll be back soon with another episode, so stay vigilant and stay uninterrupted.